Hi everyone, welcome to the current discussion on in conversations about a very important topic, right? The topic what we are going to discuss is the rise of AI CEOs, Agentic AI and future of leadership. With me, I have my cousin is a distinguished, professional from the industry. Alan, may I invite you to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, thank you, Ankit, and good morning, good afternoon to both you and your viewers too. So, look, I'm delighted to share with you, I guess, our observations in terms of how the world of business is now changing so quickly. For those people that haven't met me before, I'm Alan Flower. I lead HCLTech's global AI labs. We have 6 labs around the globe. One of our busiest is in India, of course, in Noida. And we are utterly overwhelmed, Ankit, helping the world's business leaders accelerate the transformation of their businesses with AI. But looking forward to sharing some of our observations with you.
Wonderful. I think we and all of our audience are very excited to hear, what basically you're seeing from your point of view. So the first topic I would want to probably start with this from assistant to strategist. Is the AI executive now within reach, right? Is agentic AI moving beyond a backend analytics to a frontline strategic influential post in the boardroom? Alan, what are your thoughts?
It's a good question, Ankit, really. And I would possibly rephrase that question in terms of, is AI now ready to run the business? All right. Is AI now ready to take responsibility? And it's quite interesting, actually, because if people look at the projected journey of AI, at the end of the journey, we get to this point of artificial general intelligence. And many people claim beyond that, we get to kind of super intelligence. But what's quite interesting is this definition of artificial general intelligence is sometimes described by some as organizational intelligence, which means when we get to AGI, in theory, AI can run your entire company. AI, in theory, can replace the chief executive, right? That's the theory. And we haven't reached the end of the journey yet. So we're not at AGI. We're coming into and going through the agentic phase of this journey. So I don't think anyone would want or expect AI to take over complete operations of a business right now. But I think it's within reach, Ankit, to be quite transparent with you. But what we are seeing is a lot of evidence where maybe at the practice, the department, or indeed the business unit level, people are now preparing for AI to step in and make all of the key operational decisions on a day-to-day basis. So we are seeing evidence that it's something that our clients are preparing to do, which is to give AI responsibility. And I think this is the key thing that people need to appreciate. In the last 2 years, we've seen this utter tsunami of businesses show great enthusiasm and vision around the adoption of AI. And of course, the reason why this tsunami started maybe just over 2 years ago was, of course, the arrival of kind of ChatGPT in particular. All right. But now we have the availability of reasoning capability within these kind of off-the-shelf models. And I think the key tipping point now that I certainly see is stop using AI as a reporting tool. In other words, stop using it as a better equivalent of Google. Now start using it to execute your instructions. And that clearly is why agentic today is such a big topic, because we are seeing things are now going into production where AI is making decisions.
Great, thank you. So where is AI leading, right? And what's its power, right? Can you share real-world examples where agentic AI is already influencing businesses, strategies, priorities? What do you see from your lenses, Alan?
Okay, so it's a good question, right, around the current kind of impact of AI and what we're seeing. So I mentioned earlier, Ankit, that I lead HCLTech's AI labs, and I think we're quite confident in saying that HCLTech is the industry leader in this space, right? We've had more exposure to the world of business than I think many other organizations. And from my lab's perspective, the big change that I've seen is that the people that are walking into my labs, they're no longer just technologists, Ankit, right? They are the world's business leader. With these Gen AI and now agentic solutions, it's worth pondering. So what's happened, right? Why did the technologists stop leading these conversations and business leaders step in? But I think it's quite obvious, right? The world of business has probably done enough experimentation now. They've got enough confidence. They know what the technology leaders walking into my lab, because they have some very, very clear ideas about where this should bring value. And they're coming to HCLTech because they want to convert that vision into something they can put into production really quickly. Now that these business leaders are effectively in the driving seat, they're asking us to build AI solutions that bring real business transformation. We talk about value stream transformation, Ankit, right? And to give you some examples, my labs team are already deploying into production multimodal, multi-model agentic solutions. Okay, so they're in production already. Okay, now just some examples. If I give the example of the healthcare industry, all right, where post-COVID, many professionals are overwhelmed. Really, most healthcare systems around the world are struggling to kind of overcome, demand. We've started to deploy AI systems into the surgery. So we're helping doctors make better decisions. We're accelerating what I would call the patient's treatment kind of journey, because the provider is able to make better decisions, move more quickly than before. But we're also deploying agentic solutions to help the patient, the end user, interact directly with AI. So a very good example of this is in my own country, of course, and I'm from the UK. It's really difficult to have an appointment with a doctor. It's just really difficult getting a booking or even speaking to someone to make an appointment. So one of the things we've done at HCLTech, we have an AI clinical advisor now, Ankit, which is going into production, and it enables the patient to speak to AI, to book appointments, but to ask about their treatment, for example. So behind the scenes, you now have agentic systems making decisions, talking to what I would call the technology infrastructure within the healthcare space, looking at calendars, looking at patient records and so on, and independently making decisions. Now, in healthcare, of course, we've not reached the point where we want to take the human out of the loop, right? The human is still delegating to AI, if I can describe it like that, in healthcare. But in other domains, we are seeing very clear evidence where our clients are now expecting AI to operate autonomously, which is the key benefit, of course, of agentic AI.
Great. I think very, very great insights, right? So let me go to the next point, right, which I wanted to brainstorm with you, Alan. What is a critical design decision, right? Is it technical? Is it business? And how do you see businesses or probably enterprises dabbling with that, right? Alan?
Yeah, so the most critical, I guess, decision, Ankit, is deciding firstly where in your business you want to apply AI. Now, in the early stages of this journey, I think we all saw lots of examples of what I would call random experimentation, right? Lots of POCs that weren't really focused on anything. You could almost describe them as people playing with technology. Now, of course, that the technology has demonstrated its capability, and we have this overwhelming confidence in what the technology can do today. That key decision that you have to make is, so where in my business will I deploy this technology best today? Now, we've already seen many copious examples in the realm of software engineering, for example, where you have highly complex work, which is typically delivered by highly skilled professionals, and it's a hugely complex domain. And we saw very early success in the realm of software engineering. I think everyone would agree with that. But this is the important point. The reason why AI does so well at software engineering is because it's a domain of great complexity. It's a domain where humans struggle to be as productive as they would like. And really what we're seeing is now business leaders look across their organization and start to think, where are those value streams in my company, right? Where are those processes where I can't go quicker? I can't go quicker because basically it's a complexity issue, right? My workforce, it's very complicated work. It takes time. It's a particularly expensive kind of process, and I can't improve it by throwing more people at the problem. And when clients typically find a value stream where there might be an entire value stream or a single step in that value stream where human capacity, complexity becomes an issue, that tends to be where what I would call the low-hanging fruit is. So an example, we took into production a couple of weeks ago in Europe, we took a legal agent into production, all right? What this legal agent does, no surprises, it reviews contracts, it can even write contracts, and its role effectively is to increase the productivity of the existing process, all right? So we've got many, many examples where AI has stepped in to overcome what I would call complexity, all right? And I think, in summary, when I answer your question, sort of, Ankit, what the world's business leaders are doing is they're looking at all of the value streams in their company, all right? And they're trying to find the obvious ones where they can deploy agentic AI today and bring impact, whilst also planning for what happens next. But it is certainly the case that our clients don't seem to have too many challenges finding these value streams where AI can bring kind of impact today.
Great. I think just a double dip on that. Right? So you said finding the right place to implement, AI or agentic AI. That's very key, right? So what are you, finding? Are there specific functions where the businesses are applying probably internal functions like legal or HR or software development? And the other augmented question to that will be, right, when you build an agent, right? So what sort of frameworks are you using? Are you using open source frameworks or closed source, right? Can you highlight on that?
Yeah, so to answer the first part of the question in terms of kind of where this is taking place, right? I think many of the world's largest organizations, right, have probably come to the conclusion that the answer to that question is everywhere, right? Every part of the business has a value stream where AI can bring kind of augmentation. And we look at that augmentation, Ankit, in three distinct kind of dimensions. Firstly, it's about augmenting productivity. How can we enable people to get more done? The second dimension is around quality, right? How can I help people produce better quality work? And the third dimension is around velocity or speed, right? How can modern AI enable businesses to run faster? And here's the interesting fact, right? Every single business has got an area within its business where those one or more of those dimensions could bring value, right? So it's absolutely everywhere, I think, is the kind of my generic response to that. But an observation that I think I should share really, Ankit, with you and your audience is I think it's become a lot more strategic, right? We've already had clients come to us to share their future architecture for the entire business. So our clients are now re-engineering the company around AI. So it's not just about picking off what I would call blockages within value streams, right? It's really clear that the world's leading businesses will now redesign themselves, redesign the entire company around AI. And this is what I think our industry needs to prepare for, that level of maybe ambition and vision amongst the world's business leaders is perhaps higher than we would expect. And just one final comment to kind of back that up is what really surprises me now is I have chief executives visiting my AI labs. So when the leader of one of the world's largest businesses decides to visit an AI lab to discuss the re-engineering of their company, you know that a very significant shift is underway.
Thank you. I think great insights coming through, right? So the next area I would want to touch upon is very key, right? When we are implementing this AI agents, who is holding the steering, right? When we're making AI to do decision making, how should we think about corporate governance, accountability, ethical guardrails, right? Alan, what do you see happening?
Yeah, so it's a good question, really around the, I guess, the pragmatic application of AI or AI agents into businesses, right? So I've already shared with you that the world's leading businesses have already or are starting to identify all of those key processes where agentic AI will now augment the traditional workforce, and we largely see this model emerging today of delegation, Ankit, right, where you and I will be supported by a team of AI agents to whom we can delegate work, all right, which is great. So the less interesting aspects of my job, I'll be able to delegate to AI. We can all do that today to a certain extent, all right. So we start to see the emergence of probably what you would describe as a hybrid workforce, right? The traditional human workforce now being augmented by potentially a far larger digital workforce. Now that is going to bring up some interesting challenges, all right? And if you think about this, it's not really about technology, Ankit. This is probably more of a cultural and kind of societal kind of challenge, right? Because you now have to show your employees how to effectively work with these new agentic systems. You're going to have to train them to delegate. You're going to have to train them to do performance management of agents, for example. There will be millions and millions of different agents available soon enough. How am I going to choose the most appropriate agent for my business or my business process? How am I going to manage that agent? How am I going to reward that agent? How will I pay for that agent? All right. And it's certainly clear that maybe we'll be moving more strongly to an outcomes-based model. So I need to monitor the value that these agents bring. So there's a lot of challenges there around blending those two worlds together. Now, this is why you shouldn't be surprised that in many of these conversations around the impact of agentic AI, the HR leadership starting to turn up in these meetings, all right? Because we might think that agentic AI should be under the realm and domain of the IT organization. That's what you and I would naturally expect, all right? But there's quite a few business leaders who think, no, this is an HR issue. I'm going to ask HR to manage my agentic workforce. Now, this isn't science fiction, Ankit, at all, right? Every week, I receive multiple requests from our clients now where they're saying to us, HCLTech, I need to share with you my next problem, right? I'm now purchasing agents from multiple providers, Microsoft, Salesforce, ServiceNow. I'm building my own agents. How am I going to get them to collaborate together? How will these agents collaborate to deliver the outcome that I need in my business? Now, the other thing that I would share is there are now many tools available that make it very, very easy indeed to build these new agents. And whilst you are correct, many of the more sophisticated agents will use some of these higher powered professional frameworks like LangChain, for example, all right? But also be aware that companies like Microsoft with their Copilot Studio are democratizing agentic AI, right? Anyone can build an AI agent now, Ankit, to help them in their role, whether that role is taking orders as part of a sales process or managing the workforce, HR type. It doesn't really matter. Copilot Studio is the visual basic of our age, all right? And that's the interesting thing. I think you're going to see these agents explode over the next year or so. And fundamentally, we need to make sure that they can all learn to collaborate and share knowledge as this journey accelerates.
Great, Alan. I think we are having an amazing conversation. I'm loving it. And then my last topic probably would be, or my last question to you would be like, what do you think, how to build a culture of AI leadership, right? What are the structural and cultural and technology shift enterprise must, undergo or adopt while, having effective AI-driven leadership?
It's a really great question, right? And you've hit the nail on the head, really, Ankit, because this has got nothing to do with technology, quite frankly, right? The real challenge is firstly helping people understand where AI can safely step in, just set the expectations in terms of what it can and cannot do, today. And once people understand what it can do, helping them understand how to access that capability and use it in a productive way. And I'll just make two general comments on this, right? This is no different, Ankit, to trying to increase productivity of office suites, right? If you've ever looked at the usage of a product like Microsoft Word, right? You and I, most people don't use more than 2 or 3% of the power of a product like Microsoft Word. And guess what? We see exactly the same with AI today. Most people using, for example, ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot are not really using it to anything like its full capability. They use it typically, as I said before, as maybe nothing more than a simplistic replacement for Google searches. And I think if we can help people understand how to communicate with today's AI, fundamentally, let's talk about prompt engineering, for example, right? Being able to construct prompts in the right way so that they get the right outcome in response is a very simple thing that brings a very significant change, right, in the way that these platforms are used. So the first thing is we need to educate people on how to talk to and drive these AI systems, all right? And that's really not a technology, concern, all right? Now, the second point really is, I think, a bit more fundamental, Ankit, is so how do people get value out of these systems? And I've seen one distinctive difference between those individuals, those teams, and those companies that are accelerating on this journey, and those that don't appear to be moving much at all. And I would put it like this, Ankit. Those individuals that have a growth mindset, right? Or you could call it an internal locus of control. Basically, people who think they control their own destiny, right? People, and look, we all work with people like this, people who get things done. Individuals with a growth mindset are taking these tools with a huge amount of enthusiasm, and they are supercharging their productivity. So what I see already is this gap emerge very quickly now between those people, those teams, those organizations that kind of have that growth mindset, who are not, they're not scared by the potential of AI. They're grasping it to give them a competitive edge. We see that today, Ankit, very, very clearly. But I think the bigger challenge is, what about those individuals who, for whatever reason, don't have that growth mindset, right? We're going to have to show them, train them, coach them, motivate them to see these tools for what they are, which is a massive augmentation in your kind of professional capability, right? So I don't think we should be too worried about the first set of users, Ankit. They're going to show the way. But I think for the broader population, there's quite a lot of education to be done to give them the confidence to use the full power of these platforms.
Absolutely, Alan. I will definitely agree with you and share the sentiments, right? It was lovely talking to Alan. I think great insights coming from you. With that, probably we'll end the discussion with a couple of lines. Like it's not about just what AI can do, but what we choose to let it lead, right? Again, in real time, the future of leadership is getting written, right? I think we are in a very, very interesting transformation age, right? It's one in time event in our century. And then I think we all will definitely make best of it. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ankit. It's my pleasure. Thank you.